Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B, a.k.a. the 110 Soldier. I already know I got too much to jam in. I got too much to cram in. We're not going to get it all done, but we're going to try anyways because that's what we do around here. Matter of fact, that I was sitting around on my phone waiting. Got breaking news. Bilichek is actually on his way to North Carolina.
Jim, I only have one thing to say. We're on to Seattle.
No, you're not. You're on your way to North Carolina. That's kind of a shock. Everyone thought he was going to go to the NFL, but the 72-year-old Bill Bilichek, this was breaking news, and six-time Super Bowl champion, also has a 24-year-old girlfriend. I think I should mention that. And I did check, by the way. I don't think she actually goes to North Carolina, although she could. He did finalize a deal, apparently, or he's working on it. Now, his dad actually coached in North Carolina 70-plus years ago, whatever it was. North Carolina is a great basketball school, never been a great football school. Matter of fact, it's not won an ACC title in over 40 years. He replaces the great Mac Brown, who did not have that great of a record at North Carolina, 44-33 over the last 6 years. Bill Bilichek, it's not shocking that he returned to coaching. I mean, the dude's going to coach till he dies. He's just one of those lifers that really just has nothing else outside of what he does, and he is a head football coach. The question will be eventually, can he recruit? I mean, look, there's other people to do the luring and the paying of the money, plus the NIL portal is going to do a lot of that, just giving them all the dollars that they need. When I think of what Bill Bilichek could actually do, and I think if I'm a good football player and I have any aspirations to go to the pros, and I actually heard him, they said, hey, give us a mock pitch. I think he makes a great point. Be like, dude, I've won 6 Super Bowls. I played with some of the greatest of all time, and I'm one of the most disciplined, well-knowledge coaches out there. Would you like to know as a college player how to get to the NFL? Would you like the connections to the NFL? Would you like to know what it takes to become an NFL player? If so, play for me. If you just want a nice-ass car and some bitches, go to that other school. But if you actually want to make it to the next level, I am your guy. I actually think that's a hell of a recruiting pitch for a guy who has the personality of a dead moth, although he did show a lot more in the last year as an announcer. I wonder if he brings any of that to try to reach the kids, quoting South Park. But that was just breaking news I thought I'd throw in real quick, was that Bill Bilichek is on his way to North Carolina. How about it?
Jim, I only have one thing to say. We're on to Seattle.
Told you already. He's getting old. Maybe he forgets. He's on his way to North Carolina. But moving on to more important things, Corey, hit the first picture here for me, because we do have in college football the college football playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
All right.
You kidding me? Playoffs?
I threw Jim Mora in here because, honestly, I'm with him, because it's the 11th year, but this is the first time now we've gone to the 12-team playoff. It's starting December 20th. It's going to end around January 20th. And so a lot of years they do the did they get it right question. We're at 12 freaking teams, man. I mean, dude, this is ridiculous. We went from 4 to 12. And I mean, this is all a money grab. Let's just keep it a buck. I'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. But as far as the format, if we were trying to pick just the actual best teams to have a playoff for the college football championship, I always thought 6 was plenty. I mean, honestly, once you got to 5 or 6, you started getting the teams that lost a couple and didn't really look like they were a complete team. 8 would have been more than enough for me. 12 is just like, what are we doing?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Alabama's mad. They got a 3-loss team they didn't get in. I mean, look, there was a lot of parity this year, so I think that does help the 12-team playoff structure, because only Oregon was undefeated. I think only Boise State had the 1 loss, and the rest were all kind of in the same thing. So you can make a lot of arguments, oh, this should have been here, that should have been there. But in the end, I know what this was. This was a complete money grab by the NCAA. The fact is, their New Year's 6, their 6 big bowls, were the ones that were starting to really tank and hemorrhage and lose ratings and lose money, because only 2 of the 6 bowl games actually were watched or anyone cared about, including the actual players. Anybody that was going to be drafted in the NFL, if they weren't in those top 4 for the national championship game, decided to sit their happy ass down, and I did not blame them, because God forbid you get injured and lose your draft stock. And so they were having to rotate 2 out of the 6, and these other ones, the ratings were so significantly different. I'll give you an idea. Just a couple years ago, the 2 semis that actually had the actual implications of a college football playoff were at 22 million. The 4 other of the big New Year's 6 bowls were anywhere from 10 to only 4 million. That's up to an 80% drop-off. The NCAA, which is just as much about amateur athletics as I am an Olympic sprinter, was not going to allow themselves to lose this much money with their 6 major bowls going forward. So they have now flooded the market with 12 playoff team, and it's fine. It'll be fun. It's cute. But the main thing that they did was make sure now that the New Year's 6 all means something, because in the quarters now you're going to have the Fiesta, the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the Sugar Bowl all around New Year's time. time. Then in the semis, you'll have the orange and cotton, and then you'll finally have the national championship. But at least now they got their precious 6 major bowls are all going to be watched, because with 12 teams, they all mean something to somebody. Although, I mean, you get down to 9, 10, 11. I mean, this is silly. I mean, it'll be cute. I do enjoy the one game where they have Indiana versus Notre Dame for the Indiana Bowl. I think that'll be fun. I did love seeing that even with 12 teams, Alabama was on their way out, and they seem to be a program that is, falling off the wagon. So never been a fan of Alabama. But other than that, any thoughts or predictions? I mean, look, I guess, again, there's more drama this year. At least there is more parity as far as, like, it used to be year after year. It would just be Alabama, Clemson, or Georgia. That doesn't really seem to be the case with Georgia's kid being hurt. And speaking of, on that side of the bracket, I will say the Boise States, the Penn States, and Notre Dames, you really have no excuses, because with Beck, the quarterback for Georgia, hurt with that UCL injury, and they have Gunnar Stockton, which is a hell of a name, but he's apparently not that ready of a quarterback. That is the much more easier route to that final game. Oregon will be interesting to see, because let's face it, they are just right now the best team money can buy. Phil Knight, the CEO and guy who, Nike runs Oregon, they've already had great recruiting possibilities every year because of all the exclusives they have with Nike. He actually said, I believe, just this last year, dude, I'm like 2-3 years away from dying. Just take all my money, give these kids as much as we need. Just do it. Literally. Just do it. Just pay these damn kids whatever they need, and now they are number 1 in the country in NIL money. They have paid $23 million this year. Dylan Gabriel, the Heisman candidate's making over $1 million, and they are the only undefeated team in the country. So the Wild West that is NCAA football with all these NIL deals, I think will be interesting to see if Oregon can complete that process of being like, dude, we just bought the best team in what's supposed to be an amateur athletic competition. We'll see if that happens going forward. So that's kind of got my interest a little bit there. They do have, most experts, Oregon versus Notre Dame as the final. This will be kind of March Madness-y with 12 teams. You will see an upset or two, in my opinion. I mean, even Oregon themselves, they barely snuck past Ohio State and Penn State and Boise State and all that. The only thing I want to make sure happens, Arizona State, I swear to God, if this coach, Kenny Dillingham, doesn't get his ass kicked, Texas, I am begging you, please eliminate this douchebag.
What a dude.
I didn't even really know this guy. And so put this video up here for me, Corey. I'll play it in 1 second. Let me set up the background. This is from a couple weeks ago. This was Arizona State, BYU. I had never heard or seen this coach, Kenny Dillingham, who's a 34-year-old, considered kind of this cool new coach. But he had a conniption fit that most people either put somewhere between a pathetic, drunk frat boy, kind of interpretation, or maybe just, if you're an alum, you think he's quote-unquote passionate. I thought he came across as a complete douchebag, considering the main fact, it was his fault. So it was Arizona State, BYU, in case y'all missed it, a couple weeks ago, and they had the ability to run out the clock, and he tried to get cute, and he ran these kind of goofy little plays, and so long story long, BYU ends up with a second left to have a Hail Mary attempt to try to win the game. Arizona State had thought they had ran out the clock. So all the crowd comes rushing the field, and he's celebrating because it was this big victory, and then the refs had to tell him, dude, no, because of the stupid shit you did, we still have 1 more second left. They get a chance to do a Hail Mary. And if you can play the tape, this absolute moron douche, maybe it's his face. Hit it for me, Corey. I just don't know. But he loses his mind. And again, this is your fault. It was the stupidity of what you did, having the quarterback run backwards and try to do all these cute little things, is the reason there was a second left anyways. And I don't know, man. I mean, people said at Arizona State, he's being passionate. Maybe it's his face. But, I mean, he looks to me like the guy at Golden Corral just found out they're out of mac and cheese. The frat boy whose keg just got tapped at I'm a goddamn Dorka. The wide-eyed stare, like, dude, who are you intimidating, Hobbit? You're not scaring anybody. And the whole, conniption fit. I mean, he is literally, by the way, this is a true story, a 17-year-old who tore his ACL, so he decided to become Bud Kilmer and be one of those types of head coaches. But, I mean, it's his face. And it's, again, the wide-eyed. Who you hurting, Hobbit? You're not touching anybody. Stop trying to act. I don't know. I mean, again, he tore his ACL at 17. The only real snap he actually took in football was his cousin's bra. I don't like him. I don't know anything about him. Apparently, he's a great players coach and everything else. Arizona State's having a great year. I just hope they lose and get their ass kicked, because to me, that dude is a douchebag, and I want Arizona State to lose. Please, Texas, do that. That is actually probably more important to me than national title.
What a dude.
I don't know. Something about that whole rant, I was like, that guy sucks. Guy sucks. I hope he loses by a lot. In a more important note, the Heisman race is going to be apparently not even that big of a race. I actually thought it was going to be closer, but I mean, part of it is that, with the ballots coming in already being brought in by December 9th, that, looks like Genty might not even have a shot here against Travis Hunter. And the only thing that's nice is that a quarterback won't get it and one of the position guys will get it. So I do think that's a nice thing to see outside of, Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward. They got, they threw him in there, but they're not going to win anything. But if you could pop the video up here, I mean, Travis Hunter from Colorado, who I'm a fan of. Corey, you got to hit that video here for me, buddy. Appreciate it. Travis Hunter is the overwhelming favorite, and to me is going to be the better NFL prospect. So you got Travis Hunter, again, as the favorite to win the whole thing, and I think he's actually going to be the better NFL prospect. I actually like Travis Hunter as a person, a player, two-way guy. Deion Sanders type dude obviously comes from, that being his head coach there. I'm a big fan of Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be a better NFL prospect. He's going to be drafted higher than Genty. But when it comes to the Heisman, I got to throw in, dude, Genty and Boise State, that kid went insane. 344 carries, 2,497 yards, and 29 touchdowns are all first in the country. He's only 132 yards away from Barry Sanders when he averages 192, so he might get the all-time record. Genty's had 12 carries this year of 50 yards or more. No other SBS team has had more than 7. His last game in the Mountain West Championship against UNLV went for 209 yards. The fun fact of that was 187 of those were after contact. That is absolutely bananas. Matter of fact, along with the 134 broken tackles, which is 30 more than Bijan Robinson's old record for the season, he has 1,882 yards after contact for the season. That is 527 more than Jonathan Taylor's record. He's a rare mix of just he's elusive, he's tough, but he's versatile, he can catch. And the flip test is really, for me, even though Travis Hunter is going to win and he's probably the better prospect, to me, if you would have flipped these two teams, I think you have the same result with the different logo, meaning that I think Colorado, who was at 23 this year, would have been in the actual college football playoffs, and Boise State would not have been if Travis Hunter was suddenly on Boise State. Because, I mean, just the fact of having Shedeur Sanders alone, you would have put Genty with Sanders. I mean, I can't even imagine, because the only problem Colorado had this year was that they could not run the ball. It was so bad out there in Colorado, just so you know, that their last loss against Kansas, when Devin Neal went nuts for 207 yards for Kansas, do you know the leading rusher was that day for Colorado? Shedeur Sanders with 26 yards. Can you imagine if Colorado had Genty? If you added Genty on Colorado, I think Colorado is actually where Boise State is right now. Number 3 at least with a bye. And if you put Travis Hunter on Boise State, unfortunately, as much as I like Travis Hunter, and I think he's going to be a better prospect in the NFL, I do not think that he has the same impact. So if I'm going by the pure impact of what you do for a team in college, not who I like more or who I think is going to be a better prospect, I mean, talk about literally carrying a team. Genty ran for 7 more touchdowns than his quarterback threw this year, 29-22, and only had 220 less yards rushing than his quarterback threw the ball. I mean, I don't know what to say other than that's pretty much, you're a one-man band. It's very apropos that he's challenging Barry Sanders' rush record, because everyone knew that Ashton Genty is getting the ball, and yet Boise State is third with a bye, and Colorado is at home. So as far as for me, I know Hunter's probably going to win the Heisman, but if you want to ask me fairly, I think that if you flip them, there would be 2 different stories, and that Genty had more impact in college than Hunter did, even though I think Hunter will be better actually in the NFL and obviously will be drafted higher. So, shout out to both of them, though. They both did their thing. Again, no quarterback's going to win this year in the Heisman. That's very rare. But like I said, to me, if you flipped it, I would think Genty would have more impact on Colorado, and they would be in the national title hunt. And then if you flipped Hunter to Boise State, it would be the same thing. Probably like in the mid-20s, he would be a very good player, but they would not be in the same dance. So, thought that was an interesting thing going on in college, but I got to move on to the NFL. Corey, if you can hit this next picture here for me. Yes, sir, NFL. I got 4 things I want to talk about for Week 15. I got 4 things I want to bring up, and then I'm going to move on to the NBA and some other stuff. But let me start off with this. In the NFC, and I actually lived down the street from this. It was so cool to see the crowd and everything, but I'm not even trying to be a local homer. I am being dead serious. In the NFC, if the LA Rams end up threatening the Detroit Lions and are probably the biggest threat in the NFC now. Do not be surprised that anyone told you that. I mean, this is something in between the fact that Eagles and their whole debacle, I mean, we're just a year off the 10-1 debacle from last year, and having same shit, different day. Now you got A.J. Brown and Hurts fighting. Looks like team chemistry has an issue. So I'm throwing the Eagles out in at least kind of a pause, we'll see kind of situation. And so underneath the Lions, I got to put the Rams right there. I think the Rams are actually the best threat. Love the song. Can't help myself. I think they're the best threat in the NFC because now with a healthy Matt Stafford, who looks much better, but also Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, the two best wide receiving tandem arguably in the league right now, they are 6-2 in their past 8 games. They just got that big win against the Buffalo Bills. That was a phenomenal game, especially, man, Puka was an absolute stud. And in the past 4 weeks, speaking of health, the LA Rams have only had to use 6 offensive linemen in the past 4 weeks. To give you an idea, they have been so depleted. They had to use 11 in the first 10 weeks. They are now 7-6, which doesn't seem that great, but in their division, NFC West, they're doing just fine. They're only 1 game back. They still get to play San Francisco, and they still get to play Seattle, so they control their own fate. They look phenomenal, and they are healthy right at the end of the season at the right time. Go Rams. I really think they're going to be an absolute problem, and as of right now, I'll say more than Philly. If you told me right now the 10-1 Philly or the LA Rams, I'm going with the Rams. They at least seem to get along. On the other note in the NFC, I got to throw this in here. Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, who are currently the NFC favorites and have the best record. Man, they're at least the most fun team to watch in the NFL.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
I mean, Dan Campbell is a goddamn legend. I love this guy so much. They have now won 11 straight and are number 1 in the entire NFL in point differential at plus 183. They're also, again, number 1 with the 11-game win streak. That's the first time in Detroit Lions franchise history, so that's all great. They got a big game versus the Bills coming up, also 49ers and Vikings. But just the balls, the giant grande, just massive, just gigantic nuts on Dan Campbell with everything going on right now that he went for his 5th fourth down attempt of the game against Green Bay the other day. A lot of coaches get fired for this type of shit. The NFL is probably one of the most backwards as far as like anything risky or different, and this dude has come out and has just said everyone can stick it, I'm going to do things my way. When he went for that 5th fourth down attempt against Green Bay at the 21-yard line with 43 seconds left, when he easily could have just kicked the field goal, that was bananas. Even other Lions fans are like, this dude is out of his goddamn mind. But it actually worked. I mean, it was even more crazy when Goff, is falling, his knee hit the ground and everything else. Some people are saying actually he was probably more worried about his injured defense. Whatever. I love what they're doing. I love a crazy person that's actually being successful. Dan Campbell's out of his goddamn mind. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC right now, and he's a legend for doing what he does. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
On the other side, I will get more into this in a second, but I also want to talk about their little brother. The Kansas City Chiefs might have made a deal with the devil. That might be confirmed at this point.
Devil 666, the mark of the beast.
I don't know if it's Taylor Swift as well, like joining in with her voodoo. Tango kalala, hamanahana. I don't know what kind of evil magic they do out there. But, I mean, the last game with the doink for the division, which was a great coin by the announcing, phrasing that as it bounced off the field goal post there. It is interesting, though, as far as, I don't know if it's a deal with the devil. I don't know what's going on. But once again, the Chiefs continue to win ugly, and the Bills, who keep wanting so bad, Marsha, trying to take over in the AFC, look phenomenal and lose. And so, in the end, this ain't horseshoes or hand grenades. That shit don't count just because it's close. The Bills once again looked great in the loss, and the Chiefs once again looked bad in a win. But in the end, all that matters is the dub. So, I mean, Josh Allen, great for you. 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, same game. First guy to ever do that in the NFL, and you still lost. Meanwhile, the Chiefs looked like they were going to lose once again, but somehow they didn't. And you look at the same thing going forward, these two teams every single year, home field's going to seem to matter. Mahomes is 15-3 in the playoffs now, and Josh Allen, the MVP this year, is 5-5. It looks like history is going to repeat its damn self one more time. And I even put together a video for it here if you want to hit this here for me, Corey. I mean, the question goes, are the Chiefs the devil's son?
Devil 666, the mark of the beast.
I don't know, or do they just do what winners do? And I mean, it is weird, man. This is a lot of crazy wins in a row. 15 straight one-score games and winning all of them is bananas. It's an NFL record. The scores, by the way, if those were flipped, the Chiefs would not be 12-1. They would be 2-11. And the way that they continue to do it, the unlikely quote-unquote toe tap in Baltimore, the 4th and 16 getting a pass interference versus Cincy, the no pass interference call versus Atlanta, blocking the field goal in Denver, the Chargers game, the doink for the division, and that being won by their third different kicker. They just continue to just have a lot of people question, like, dude, do they do seances? Again, is Taylor using dark magic? Like, how the hell do you win 15 one-score games in a row? And when you look at also their differential, their point differential is only is plus 56 for a 12-1 team. That's the lowest ever in NFL history. To give you an idea, the 12-1 Lions are 183 to only 56. They continued to win just by an inch, by an inch, by an inch. But I will say, I really don't think luck is just something that only, is random. I really think that winning is a skill you learn more than you earn. Does that make sense? I mean, the fact that they're going for their third is not a mistake. The fact that this happens to be the team that's setting records for winning close games is not a mistake. When you consider their quarterback, Mahomes, is 71% conversion rate on drives to tie or go ahead of a game. He's 7 for 7 now on the playoff drives with under a minute left, trailing by 7 or left. He has 14 fourth-quarter comebacks. He has 16 game-winning drives and now has 2 walk-off passes in playoffs in overtime to win games. I think whether we want to admit it or not, winning is something that is more, you learn how to do it. You keep your poise under pressure. You keep cool. There are certain tendencies that unfortunately Mahomes and Kelsey and this crew have. They don't panic. They don't make bad decisions. So as much as I'd love to say, oh, it's the devil, it's Taylor, it's the NFL, it's rigged. It's winners being winners, man. Tom did this shit for a long time. Jordan did this shit for a long time. Winners just find a way to quote unquote get lucky. And I mean, this whole thing that they're lucky, I mean, it is record level lucky, 15 in a row of one-score games, but the fact that it's the Chiefs does not shock me in the least. And when they win a third damn Super Bowl and become history makers there too, won't shock me at all. We'll have to see Taylor and Travis and everyone else celebrate on the field, and we'll have to see what else is on television. Speaking of, let me move on to my favorite sport, the National Basketball Association. Hit the picture. NBA ratings suck this year. People like me are watching, but a lot of people aren't. And so now we're trying to figure out whose fault it is. And I think it's been an interesting conversation because people, in my opinion, are so goddamn wrong about this. We have all the simple minds. They're either blaming Steph Curry. It's all his fault because he shoots too many threes and everyone tries to copy Steph to shoot too many threes. Or it's, the lack of effort, or it's no defense. It's guys like Harden and Young who don't hustle and na. And I'm going to keep reiterating this till the cows come home, and I'm going to try to make this point quick, but it's stars and it's stories. There's no sport immune from not having stars and not having stories, especially American stars and good storylines. You are not going to get ratings. There is reason for concern, and I will at least get into that here in a second, but I will continue to say the idea that it's somehow the fault of Steph Curry or too many threes or defense, it's all horseshit. It's all dopey, dumb talk.
That's dopey talk. That's dopey, dumb talk.
NBA is struggling right now because they have no stars and they have no storylines, and the two people that they do have are getting too old. But, I mean, there is a lot of concern. There is problems. The ratings are down significantly, 28% this year in the first month in the NBA. A 1.8 million average is pathetic as far as NBA ratings go. To give you an idea, Caitlin and Angel beat that a couple times this year. WNBA, the little, we got to fund them. Oh, no one watches them. Their ratings for some regular season games actually beat the NBA's current average. That is not good for a league that just signed an 11-year, $76 billion television deal with ABC, Prime, and NBC Universal. And when you look at the NBA Finals also getting around only 11 million viewing average, it is not good. This is definitely a time to panic. I agree as far as there is a ratings issue and there is an apathy issue when it goes on to the sports fans. But as far as who to blame and whose fault it
is absolutely 150%.
You're just making noise when you're faced with, you try to say, oh, it's because they don't play hard enough on defense, or it's load management, or, it's the social justice and politics. That's what's turned people away. Or there's too many games, or it's a style of play and shoot too many threes. Those all have a little bit, but I would say 2% most. Mostly you're just, again, making noise with your mouth. The biggest problem, because if you look at the actual numbers, and let me repeat this before I move on to the next point. From 2016 to 2020, that's 8 to 4 years ago. Ratings were great Finals were 18 to 20 million. People were watching and talking all over the place. The league itself, they only shoot now 10 more threes per game than they did during that era. I mean, they've just extended like 2-3 feet back, but they still shoot just the same jump shots that they did. And for people that are doing the whole, the hypocrisy, and I love this one, is the idea, there's no defense. I only like to watch defense. Bitch, we had to change the rules. Am I the only one old enough to remember? In the early 90s, we had to change the rules to become more acquiescent to the offensive player because people were complaining that the scoring was too low and the game was too boring and they need to see more scoring. Now you get more scoring, and now you just complain there's not enough defense. See what I'm saying? It's just fans are just nah. And you're all missing the point entirely. So I need you to hit this next picture here for me, Corey, because the fact is the same for this sport, for any other sport, and I will try to tell y'all till you understand. If you don't have stars and you don't have stories, you don't have shit. The NBA is no different. They need stars and they need stories to replace Steph and LeBron, and they need new American stars to do, though. This has not been a new thing or anything else we've had to discover. Since 1980, as I put the stars that have saved the NBA up there, it has continued to be the same thing. In 1980, they were on tape delay. Then by 1987, Magic and Bird took them from 7 million to 24 million. Then it fell down to around 17 million. Then MJ and the Bulls showed up. Now we had new stars. We had new storylines. Next thing you know, 1998, they got 29 million people watching the NBA Finals. Fell all the way down to 9 million. Then by 2010, Kobe Bryant shows up. He takes on the Boston Celtics. Now they're back up to 18 million. Then after that, we got spoiled because we had Steph or LeBron in pretty much every NBA Finals from 2011-2019, averaged 15 to 20 million. But the idea that suddenly in the last 5 years that the game has completely changed and it's all the defense and it's this and it's that and it's all their fault and it's Steph Curry and the threes. You're just, again,
150% your fault.
You're making noise with your face. You're not making an actual point, because the fact is people were complaining about the ratings in Major League Baseball. The last 4 years had the lowest ratings in World Series history. The last 4 years running since 1963. They got Shohei, they got Judge. Ratings did just fine. WNBA was doing so bad, not only should they have been bankrupt, they were losing in reruns to Chopped. Their live games were losing to reruns of Chopped. Caitlin and Angel showed up. Now suddenly the league's doing great. Boxing, which has really needed some stars, especially American stars for a while, got Jake Paul and Mike Tyson in a gimmick fight. Did you know that fight actually got viewership that rivaled the Super Bowl? They're guessing somewhere around $110 million. Again, stars, stories, interesting. All the idea and all this thing, we like to try to make ourselves believe that we're this really educated and into it fan and we understand the nuances. No, you don't. You like good, easy storylines. You like a good star. You like someone that you can relate to and root for, and that's pretty much the same for every single sport. The NBA has nothing else to do but try to figure out who those stars are going to be. And, I mean, that is going to be the bigger issue going forward. As, you know what, I'll just throw in the next picture here. Hit it for me, Corey, because this is the problem. We have Anthony Edwards, and that's it. When it comes to American stars, and I'm tired of apologizing for this. I have brought this up before, and people have gotten at me and been like, what do you mean? What are you trying to say? I'm trying to tell you that there is no story right now in the NBA with stars that American fans can relate to, whether it's Wemby, whether it's Luka, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Joker, whether it's Embiid. They're all great people, and they're all great players, but this is no different than if, like, the European Soccer League was suddenly taken over by Texans. Matter of fact, ask any person that has played either basketball or soccer overseas how they get treated by fan bases overseas. The idea that we're immune to wanting to root for somebody that comes from here or someone that we relate to a little bit more versus a foreign person is not this, I don't know, it gets twisted into this like MAGA kind of, and it ties in with this idea that it's almost not cool to like your country and the whole thing. But the fact is, American stars equal good television ratings. And when you have a league just carried by foreign stars, just like here or anywhere else, it doesn't work. We need stars. We need stories. I mean, Cleveland versus Memphis is not doing it. Boston versus Oklahoma City is not doing it. But, I mean, as you can see by the picture, other sports have all fallen the same thing. All those sports behind Anthony Edwards are struggling currently as far as trying to get people's attention. And look what the same problem is. Tyson Fury and the Klitschko's in boxing just killed boxing ratings after we lost like Tyson, Holyfield, Lewis, all those guys. Baseball just had its resurgence, and yes, Shohei was a big part of that. He's kind of an exception, but he had to also take on the New York Yankees and Aaron Judge. Judge, I think, to help with that. I think if Shohei was still in Los Angeles on the Angels, and it was the Anaheim Angels, going against San Diego Padres, I don't think the ratings would have been there. Tennis has been long forgotten. I mean, women have kind of held, the Williams sisters kind of held onto it for a while. And other than that, when all the Federers and all the other ones took over, we lost all of our care for tennis. Tiger Woods in golf, I don't even want to get into that. But, I mean, they've got all sorts of problems. But once we lost Tiger, we lost our star. We don't care anymore. The fact is very, very simple, and it's the same as the NBA. We are not immune to wanting to see somebody from America do their thing. I mean, if you look at the biggest rating dips, and I actually looked this up, the biggest rating dips over the last 30 years was in the NBA Finals was Houston, when they won their championships 94-95, led by Olajuwon. The Spurs had some of the worst ratings of all time. And, I mean, besides Tim Duncan being just as boring as hell, it was, Parker, Ginobili, all these other guys. They had some of the lowest ratings of all time from 1999 to 2005. Then we had the pandemic. That was also low ratings. But also right after that, the lowest in the last 5 years were the Bucks, the Nuggets, and the Mavs. Giannis, Jokic, Luka. I am not just making this shit up. I am not trying to just, get off on some tangent here. I'm telling you, unless we get some new stars from around here that we can relate to, that are also are ready. And that's the other problem. Some of the stars that we have just aren't ready. John Morant is too busy trying to, impersonate Papa Doc from 8 Mile. LaMelo is literally, you look at him post-game. Go look up LaMelo post-game interviews with his teeth shining and everything else, saying things like no homo and cussing and all sorts of stuff. He's out of his rabbit-ass mind. You can't put him at the top of the cereal box. Jason Tatum is like Shang Tsung. He has a personality for everyone else but himself. De'Aaron Fox is okay, but I don't think he's enough to carry the Steph or LeBron anchor, so to speak. We need somebody to follow in their footsteps, and that is the main reason the NBA is struggling. It's not anything else y'all are saying. Sorry, I got a lot to get into. Like I said, I'm trying to cram it all in. Another thing that they're hoping will save the day, and I'm sorry, I don't even get this one. Hit the next picture here for me, Corey. NBA Cup, never going to get you. I'm never going to get the cup thing. I don't understand it. I kind of think I'm being pranked. They have tried so hard for the last 2 years to make a big deal out of this thing, and shocking to almost nobody besides the NBA, no one gives a shit. Nobody is watching. It's already down 10% from what it was last year at 1.33 million average, which is just abysmal. But again, I don't even get it. I really feel like I'm being rickrolled or pranked or something. It is the weirdest invention. They colored the courts. They made these weird brackets, but there's still no actual implication towards the season. You win a trophy, but it doesn't mean shit. Matter of fact, the championship game for the Cup is considered an 83rd game. It doesn't even count. I didn't even know that till the end of the season. Doesn't even freaking count. You could score 100 points. If somebody scores 100 points, just to give you an idea, in the NBA Cup final, it will not go towards an NBA record because we do not even consider it an actual game in the 82-game season. I mean, this is literally the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. This reminds me of Jackie Boone trying to sell people on why Flint needs to win 4th place.
The trophy's trophy high.
We got a trophy.
And it is glorious.
Is it worth anything? Does it matter? It's the Emirati's Cup. It's the Emirates Cup.
History in the making. You're going to want to tell your grandkids and their grandkids and their grandkids.
What are we talking about? What are we doing? It's the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl, and for some reason they've tried to shove it down our face. It's not working, and nobody's watching, although there's one cool thing they did. I saw this yesterday with the NBA Cup, and I hope that this makes its way into the actual just regular broadcast. This I don't think will save ratings, but this will help ratings. They did a thing called NBA 2K Datacast.
I like that idea, and I will support
They
it.
just started doing this yesterday, so if you watch any of the Cup stuff, the basketball, is all right, but go to anything like TNT, True TV, or Max is where they're doing it. If you can hit the video here for me, this is what they call alternate augmented viewing, where they're trying to blur the lines between video game and real life. And as you can see on the screen, they're trying to copy like you're playing NBA 2K. So they have NBA 2K25 overlays where they have the shot meter, like if they hit the certain spot, they go green. They highlight them like it is in the video game. They have the 2K badges. They threw down on the bottom split-second shot probabilities and distance, just like when you play NBA 2K25. That's brilliant. That is very smart, and that's very cool, and that at least attracts my attention to a game I wouldn't give a crap about for at least 5 to 10 minutes. That's enough. That's what you're asking for. You're asking for the casual to, hey, tune in and let's see if we can make you enjoy this game. That is a brilliant marketing strategy. Good use of new technology, augmented reality to make it look like the video game. That's clever. I like this one. I support this idea. I don't really need the 5 idiots on the left talking for no reason or doing all the other stuff, but the actual idea to help people follow the game and to bring in new people to follow the game, because you see, oh, now I know this player is, now I know that player is. That is a brilliant thing. I like what they did there.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
Good job, NBA. That was a smart thing to do. Moving on, as I'm hopefully still got some time left. I had a few things I still wanted to get to. Joel Embiid. I got to talk about Joel Embiid for a couple reasons. First of all, Philadelphia 76ers fans, hit this picture here for me. I got to ask you, was that worth the wait? See what I did there?
Cry me a river, you fat baby. You disgust me.
Was Joel Embiid worth the wait? As the Sixers are now 7-15, they are in 12th place, and they look like they are going nowhere in a hurry. Mr. I never play back-to-backs is now just, by the way, had his 3-year extension, $192 million. Joel Embiid just signed his $192 million extension. That is $64 million a year, and that is $780,000 per game, of which he's played 5 of about 20 because he's either been too fat or his knees are swollen or load management or some other bullshit, and it has nothing to do other than he just gets to collect his check and not have to put out any effort.
Money, money, money. Money, money, money.
Again, I mean, 3 years, $192, $64 million a year means he's making $780,000 a game, yet he's already said out loud and got in trouble for it, you'll never catch me play a back-to-back game again. He has just played only his 5th game of the season, even though he has no major injuries. This is all due to knee swelling and load management. To give you an idea of how bad that is, Ricky Pearsall, who plays in the NFL, got shot in the chest over the summer. They have now played an equal amount of games. They have now played 5 games apiece. Ricky Pearsall has played 5 games for the 49ers after getting shot. Joel Embiid has gotten $780,000 a game to play only 5 games of 20-something because he's either been too fat or his knees hurt or he can't do this or he can't do that. It has been a just really sad, just perplexing thing to watch. Now has been followed up with other reports that I haven't had a chance to get to yet. Tyrese Maxey, the young stud out there in Philadelphia, actually had to have a team meeting where they had to call out this dude, Joel Embiid, who's supposed to be the MVP, the high-paid player, the process, the reason that they make all of these moves, and had to ask him to actually show up on time to things. Apparently, he is tardy, quote, to everything. Every meeting, every practice, everything. Their MVP, who can't play because his knees hurt because he's probably too fat, is not able to even show up on time. I'm sorry, this dude... He's unprofessional, disrespectful, and he is fat. I'm getting tired of having to hide or try to run from that statement because people might take that personally. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about NBA players. For NBA players, he has, and for a long time, has been fat.
Telling me to lose weight. Oh, I'm a hot case, he said.
And you can look all this up. If anybody tries to get mad at me about this, I am not talking about you. I am not talking about the average person's natural body type. I am talking about a professional athlete who has $160 million, who has access to dietitians, to trainers, and an expectation to be in somewhat decent shape. He can try to say it's this or that or whatever. It is not just me. There is a lot of speculation that the reason that his knees will not stop from swelling is because he's gained too much weight and he eats like shit and he doesn't take care of himself. The same way I've seen it with Zion Williamson or even Luka Doncic and Jokic a little bit. You can tell the difference in all 4 of those guys when they're in shape and when they're dedicated and when they're sitting on their ass eating Twinkies and bonbons. And that is where Joel Embiid has been for a long time, and his youth is starting to run out, and now suddenly everyone's shocked that his knees hurt and he can't play and he's just sitting on his ass collecting a check. Again, Google all this. Google everything I'm saying. The Sixers have literally had to beg him to stop eating junk food. When he was in college, Kansas coach Bill Self said he used to watch him chug Shirley Temples and eat full trays of brownies, as he said he was the most immature eater I have ever seen in my life. Joel Embiid, for a professional athlete, has and continues to be too fat and is causing injuries that don't allow him to play in the league.
Cry me a river, you fat baby. You disgust me.
He is not just, again, overweight. He is disrespectful and unprofessional. And this next thing I'm about to show you, if this doesn't just summarize what I'm trying to talk about, if you're a 76ers fan or an Embiid fan who's trying to be like, no, you're being no. The fact that he thought and thinks that it's cute to scratch and sniff his ass before he shoots a free throw in public. What else do I need to know? That guy is a douchebag.
What a douche.
Hit this video here for me. This is apparently his new free throw routine. This is not just once. He scratches his ass and sniffs his fingers before he takes a free throw. Again, $780,000 per game. He thinks that that's cute. He says he wants to win. By the way, this dude has gotten everything that he's ever asked for, including players and coaches being kicked out, whether it's Harden, Simmons, Butler, Doc Rivers, Bruce Brown, Nick Nurse. Again, $192 million. Even got that extension after his knee problems and everything else. His team is currently in 12th place. His team's calling him out because he shows up late to every meeting that he is asked to be at. He's played only 5 games total, and he's at the free throw line digging in his ass and sniffing his fingers, and you're supposed to tell me I'm wrong to say that this dude is either unprofessional, disrespectful, or just doesn't seem to give a shit about the money that you pay him or what the fans are paying him. I'm starting to see why the media in Philly, Hayes got in big trouble for this. I mean, if you see that type of stuff every day, it has got to be frustrating as a media member to watch the dude who, again, gets to make almost $1 million a game think it's funny to sniff his ass. I'm not exaggerating. He was digging up in there. He was digging up in his butt and sniffing his fingers before taking a free throw at an NBA game. I'm just flabbergasted that, that you have the immaturity to think that's even funny. That's something you have to explain to a 6th grader. Like, hey, I know your buddies think it's funny that you're digging in your butt before you take a free throw. Could you maybe knock that shit off? The parents are in the crowd. Why do you have to tell a guy who's, supposedly says, oh, I want to win, That's... give me a break. I think even Corey would agree. That's pretty bananas, Sniffing your butt? Really? Sniffing your ass before you take a Moving on. And some good news, as I'm hopefully... Do I got about 10 minutes left? What am I looking at here? About 10? All right, cool. Let me do my NBA top 5. I think this is something I like to throw in every time I can. If you can throw that up here for me to do my NBA top 5. Yeah. Creep on in. I'm going to keep this up every week until I decide to get rid of it. My top 5 this week in the NBA, I am still going to put Cleveland Cavaliers at number 1, 21-4. Just beat Boston. It is shocking to see, but the Cleveland Cavaliers, 25 games in, we're a quarter of the way in, are the best team in basketball and are currently my favorites to win the NBA championship. They got a full roster, man. They got Mitchell, they got Garland, they got Mobley. Mitchell's averaging 23, Garland's averaging 21, Mobley is averaging 18. They've got a great coach Atkinson coming from Golden State. They got a bench now. Ty Jerome suddenly knows how to play basketball. Cleveland's the best team in the league, and I don't even think it's a close second. I will put at second, a lot of people will say that I'm wrong to not say they're a close second, the Boston Celtics, because they are 8-2 in their last 10. Kristaps has just come back for 5 games of that, where he's averaging already 21, 8, and 1.5 blocks. Jason Tatum, for having all the lack of personality, does look like an MVP this year, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal per game. So I will definitely put Boston at 2, but I do think there's separation between them and Cleveland. That's my personal opinion. Oklahoma City, I have it 3rd. The Thunder, look, they are 19-5. They look great. They have a plus 12-point differential, so they're winning games pretty handily. Chet Holmgren being out for 8 weeks with a hip fracture bothers me. I think they're in big trouble with that. SGA, though, has really already stepped up to another level where he was already at one of the top 5 to 10 players in the league. SGA now averages 30 points and 6 assists per game. Now over the last 10, though, averaging 33 points per game. Oklahoma City Thunder continue to roll, even with Holmgren out, all because of that dude who is probably, other than maybe Fox, the most disrespected guard in the entire National Basketball Association. So I got them at 3. Memphis Grizzlies are interesting because no one saw them coming, including me. Like I said, John Morant has ruined the team for the last 2 years trying to impersonate Papa Doc, flashing his gun on Instagram and going to the strip club Willie's, wherever the hell he's been, doing everything he can besides lead the team. But now that he's back and he's playing well, he seems to have rallied the squad, man. Look, 7 players on Memphis now average at least 10 points per game, whether it's Ja, Jaren, Bane, Santi, Wells, Zach Edey, who I told you is going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate, is playing great. Scottie Pippen Jr. is doing much better than Michael Jordan Jr., who that's a whole nother story. But the Memphis Grizzlies look good. They look like they actually are a threat this year in the Western Conference, something we've expected over the last few years. We just haven't been able to do it because Ja kept getting suspended. The last ones And this is personal for me. And yes, look, Dallas, Houston, I know some other people could make a complaint and say that they deserve to be 5th over Golden State. I'm putting Golden State Warriors still at 5th because to me, they are just in a wayward slump, but they are still right there at 14-9, but they have lost 4 of 6 in their last 10. They have gone from the best story to a shit show in the last couple weeks. And if you could hit the next picture here for me, the reason that it's happening, I'll try to break this down very quickly to explain what's going on in Golden State. Steph has been still Steph. He's still the godfather. He's still the stud, but the knee injuries and age are starting to slow him down. He's having to miss some games. He's not playing as much, and he does look a little gimpy sometimes. Even when he makes a shot, he's kind of doing the old man jog now. That is something to keep an eye on. The Giannis Antetokounmpo trade has gone the way of the dodo. That's not going to happen anymore. The Bucks are surging. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they're starting to figure things out, so that sucks for us. Looks like that Bucks trade's probably not going to happen. Draymond Green is still an idiot because Draymond Green will die an idiot. Draymond Green is now 2nd in the league in technical fouls, only behind Dylan Brooks. So, hey, you're almost there, buddy. But a guy who's said, year after year after year, oh, I get it, I'm going to be a leader this year. Horseshit, same old Draymond. 6 technicals, well on his way to be 20-plus by the end of the season. That'll get him more than enough technicals to get suspended towards the end of the year when games count. Draymond continues to be Draymond. And Steve Kerr is still just obsessed with his small ball and his precious hobbits. At this point, DMX said it famously, like, hey, if a snake bites you, how many times can you get mad at the snake if it keeps biting you? This is what he is. This is what he's about. This is what he's going to do till the day he dies. He loves playing his little people. He loves playing small ball. And that last couple weeks ago, there was 3 games in a row where they lost to the Spurs, Nets, and Thunder that were all because of him and his clinging to that, and also an obsession with Lindy Waters and trying to make me go against a kid who was a DoorDash delivery driver a couple years ago. He just thrusted him into the starting lineup. It didn't work. I don't even know why he did it, and he stuck to it. They lost 3 games that they didn't need to lose in a Western Conference where 3 games takes you from 2nd to 11th. So this is a huge week that I think a lot of people are going to forget. I am not going to forget, and true Warriors fans, do not forget that week. Steve Kerr literally screwed it up for us with that 3-game losing streak we did not need to have. That will probably have a significant impact in the playoff seeding, just like a couple losses did last year, because he's just in love and obsessed with hobbits. The only one who's a size queen the wrong way. Thought size mattered, not to Steve. They might still make a trade. I will throw this in here quickly, and then I have one more little fun video. The Warriors do want to make a trade still. I will give you at least my opinion. This is kind of what I think it should be. If you could hit the next picture here for me. I have 3 tiers of what I think if they're going to make a trade. In my opinion, this is what the Golden State Warriors should do. For one, like I said, Giannis is out of the picture. I don't think Jimmy Butler is worth it. I don't think other, small forward, small guard type, quote-unquote superstars are really going to actually move the needle enough to be that star next to Steph. You need to get a explosive, young, big man to put into this lineup so we can stop playing 6'9" dudes at center. That is more important than anything else. And with Giannis Antetokounmpo most likely not being available anymore, I don't think we need to make a holy shit trade. Other Warriors fans, I don't think we need to just, throw. I mean, this is still a good team that just has a couple of things that need to be fixed. If there was anything I would make a move for, it would be a mid-level guy like, it would be perfect, Miles Turner. Miles Turner would be perfect. Young, 7 foot, can shoot threes out of Indiana. Something like that is worth a move. But who do you move is the other dilemma in that. I've given you my 3 tiers. Here it is. On the untouchable side, I have Steph Curry. Oh, duh. Buddy Hield, which, by the way, you can't even move, but I mean, he's because of his contract situation, but I think he would be untouchable. Kevon Looney and Gary Payton both have 1-year expiring contracts and are actually rumored in a lot of these. This is my personal opinion. I think they are too important to chemistry and everything else. You can't get rid of them. I would keep Looney and Gary Payton. Moses Moody and TJD I would also keep just because they're cheap. I just think you get a lot of value for them, and I think Moses has been horribly underrated by Steve Kerr for years and deserves finally his shot. But both those guys are very talented for a very little amount of money. Don't want to get rid of them. We are unfortunately stuck with not just Buddy and slow-mo. Now, that's contract issues. I firmly believe we're stuck with Draymond Green, $24 million, and continues to show I haven't learned a goddamn thing. He's only beloved in Golden State. I don't think anybody's going to want to take on that contract, that headache, or that personality, so we're stuck with those 3, which then leaves leads me to the important ones, the trade bait. Who would I actually trade to make a move as a Golden State Warriors fan? I will start with Andrew Wiggins, who is also got a nice expensive contract that you could swap out to bring in a superstar if somebody else believes in him. At 17 points per game, he is showing flashes of the old Andrew. But the reason I hate to say it, but I got to see you go, is because you are the same old Andrew. Whether it's mental, whether it's physical health, you're inconsistent. Steph needs somebody else consistent in his older age. You are the most, kind of flashy piece that's worth some money besides Jonathan Kuminga that we can trade. I would put Wiggins at the first and top of my list of somebody I try to move. The next one, Brandon Bajemski. I don't even know what to say. I tried to tell y'all, this dude has been horribly overrated after just one decent year. Didn't give up guys, we wouldn't give him up for Lauri freaking Markkanen. That has come to bite us in the ass. It is unfortunately a stock you'd have to trade low, but we have plenty of two guards. He has had more than just a sophomore slump. He doesn't look happy out there. Trade pods for anything you can get. I would package him with Wiggins as well. Melton's a nice, easy one to move. Again, an expiring contract who's hurt, so anybody looking for an expiring contract next year would maybe want to take on that contract. And then we could throw in Kuminga, but my only caveat with that is it has to be for a star. It has to be for Giannis. Giannis level or above, I will throw in a Kuminga, and then, of course, our first-round draft picks. But I don't think you need to do all that, and I think a Miles Turner or somebody of that level could be available for like a Wiggins, pods, and some draft picks. And I think that's really all you need to do with this team. I think the Warriors overall are still a very solid roster. They could just use a 7-footer so that little ding-dong at the end of the bench there, Steve Kerr, can stop playing, basically 5'3" people at center. Precious little people. Drive me nuts. But there you go. That's what I think the Warriors should do, and we'll see what they do going forward. There is a lot of rumors now because of this losing streak that Kerr has basically caused that they are looking for a trade. I hope it's not a big one. I hope we don't lose guys like Looney and Gary Payton. I think they're very important to the chemistry. Got to go. One last thing, though, just for fun. Just in case when you're out there, just got to know, show no mercy. I don't care who it is. No mercy out there. Mercy is for the weak. Hit the video for me, Corey. Mercy is for the weak. Saw someone entitle this video, Make Another Wish. The bullshit out of here. Blocking a wheelchair girl. Hey, no mercy. No layup rule. What about this little 5-year-old? You're going to score? Word? Get that shit out of here. Yeah, go crying. Go running. Go crying. Go tell mom I did it. Ain't going to the hole on me in my living room. Punk-ass kid. Football drill. Let me Alabama slam. I got to get some papers. I don't know if that's actually the dad or not because, dude, that is vicious. Even I might be a little against that. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't do his homework. Maybe he was smart enough. Like, word? I can clean your room? All right. Got something for you. No mercy.